Let me be very clear in what I'm asking here.
Yeah.
You have the various levels, tiers of government.
Yes.
If funds are allocated to particular tiers, yes, and you're suggesting that but to adhere to the principles of federal character, yes, that quantum of money, given the relative paucity of funds at the federal level and what needs to be done at the federal level, should be attributed to those same levels that have their own available resources. I'm asking you, is there not a kind of a structural imbalance?
No, you're conflating two issues. They're quite distinct. The federal government budget is the federal government budget. It doesn't relate to the state government budget or the local government budget. They take their money, make their own budgeting proposals to the national houses of assembly, and they appropriate accordingly. That's not in contention there. And they will follow their own principles of federal character down the line.
No, but the chief argument made by legislators, by lawmakers, is that constituency projects are to be executed within the constituencies of the lawmakers. We're not talking about federal projects now, federal highways, etc.
Constituency projects are federal constituencies. They're not state constituencies. So again, you have to zone your mind directly to federal government participation in the economy. Yeah. Nothing to do with state. So remove that. Now, talking about non-implementability because we did cuts, it doesn't make sense to me. Because if you take the examples, I'll give you 3 good examples quickly. Firstly, you took the Mambila Power Project. It was cut from 8.5 billion naira to 8.2 billion naira. Does the shaving of 300 billion naira make it implementable? No. The second Niger Bridge, a very good example as well. They submitted a proposal of 10 billion naira, was cut down to 9.1 billion naira. But I ask you this question. In 2016, 12.5 billion naira was allocated to that. How much was spent out of it? 0. In 2017, 7.5 billion naira was allocated to Mambila. How much was spent to Second Niger Bridge? How much was spent out of that? 0. In 2018, they brought a proposal of 10 billion. We made it 9.1 billion because we gave them the chance that they may want to do something about it. As of today, there is no contract for the Second Niger Bridge. There is no BEME, the Bill of Engineering, Measurement and Evaluation. There is no design. So on what basis are you allocating 10 billion for it? Finally, let me give you the example of the Enugu Airport Terminal. They said we cut it down from 2 billion to 500 million. Nothing could be further from the truth. The fact is, the federal government allocated in last year's budget 2 billion for it. We approved 2 billion, 1.7 out of which was spent. The Minister of Aviation said he had paid 1.7 billion naira. The remainder to complete it is 300 million naira. Yet we gave them 500 million naira.
Honorable member, the information you're giving, in fairness, because I know the truth about that particular project, is it's true that indeed 1.7 billion was released and that 300 million remains. What you're not telling our viewers is that the 300 million that remains is for the airport terminal and not the actual complete project at the airport, because they have to actually dam water for that project because there's no water availability at that airport right now.
I'm glad you go into that because I'm also a member of the aviation committee. So I will get into that in a moment or two. Look, the reality is when the minister appears before us, remember I said he would have made proposals to the Minister of Budget and National Planning. Minister of Budget and National Planning would have cut it. By the time it gets to us in the aviation committee, he's asking us to increase it. So we actually increased from 300 million to 500 million.
So you're saying
if there's a variation to be had, of course they can make that case at a supplementary stage.
Are you saying then that the quarrel is within the executive itself?
Of course, within the executive itself, there's a battle going on from the ministers to the Minister of National Planning.
Let me quickly take on Mr. Amadi's reaction to that. You wanted to quickly say something?
Yeah, I wanted to clarify first the issue that Honorable Member was talking about federal character is not about doing the work of the lower levels of government. They are saying, for example, if the federal government wants to use its budget to do, let's say, 3 airports, they say, okay, you put an airport in the north, you didn't put in the south. They say, okay, the same federal project, so it doesn't contravene. Yes. Okay. Now the other issue here, I think,
I'm wondering though, does federal character? I thought it applied to just persons. Does it apply to projects as well?
Well, it does, because if you look at Chapter 2 of the Constitution, it talks about inclusion and social justice. The idea behind both the federal character is that you're going to have some level of spread in projects, but that's not like legally binding. And I'm going to go to the point
because when they quoted, I mean, I noticed,
I'm not saying it's a legally construct, but it's some sensible political...
I noticed in the response of the National Assembly when they quoted that particular section, so that's why I can't get to it now. When they quoted it, it did not specifically say projects.
No, it does not.
Exactly. It seems to focus more on human beings and appointments.
Yes, the issue of federal character with position is actually about position. But the idea of an inclusive government is so big to cover everything. But look at the point here we're missing. There are two levels. One is technical, one is political. Technical level is to say who can do what. I think it's wrong, even it could be legal, for National Assembly to introduce entirely new projects without consultation with the executive. Or, like executives are alleging, things they don't know, because you are impeding their capacity to manage those projects.
Now, let's quickly talk about, who has the power to do what. The National Assembly says it's within their purview to introduce new projects. He says we can have ideas of our own and we can put that into the budget. Do you agree with him?
Well, first, let me say, long ago, Professor Mabez has said it clearly that the right to approve also means the right to vary and alter. But look at it this way. The National Assembly ought not to introduce clearly new projects, because what they are doing by that is that they are creating a fait accompli. A project is going to be managed, executed by the executive. And the idea of Section 5 of the Constitution is that the president has plenary power over the economy. Therefore, what the National Assembly can do could be also, they can vary some cost, maybe it's over-bloated, whatever, they can do that because that's their power, otherwise they become a rubber stamp. But in doing that, they should defer to the executive and not to those projects, which in their good sense are reasonable, but would mean that the executive will have to change its own process in order to execute those projects. So I think respect would mean that the National Assembly does not see it as an oversight in terms of a law and say, okay, this project should go there, take this money, ensure the new project, because the project is also a structured intervention based on a policy and based on idea
within
of
the framework
short,
of the ERGP,
medium,
yes.
ERGP. There are three things missing here. One, we have the MTF, the medium-term expenditure framework, which is a legal framework, which means that the government, there should be some level of rationality. Every year we know what project to come, because for example, if you have a 3-year project, you execute part 1, phase 1. Second phase comes automatically. Third phase concludes it, okay? Now, if that happens, National Assembly also will not be in a position or will not feel drawn to alter those things. So there's a mistake at the level of the executive. When some of these projects do not follow from a consistent and coherent medium-term expenditure. Secondly, which is very, very important, cost is the issue here. If you look at the whole thing, why do people pad the budget? Because they can cash it out at the procurement level. I think we need to create an independent procurement system away from the presidency. What that does is that it gives more assurance to legislators that those costs they're dealing with are real costs. I think that's where the problem is. We have to roll in together a budget amendment process and a procurement process.